The purpose of this video is to equip you to better understand why we believe what we believe and how we got there, right? Most of the time we're just, I mean, like when I was a young Christian, I was just told what to believe. I was never taught why I believe what I believe or how to get there, how to make sound decisions. And so I want to do that in this video, not really telling you what to believe, other than to think critically, right? And then move in the direction of truth. So why do we believe the Christian worldview is true and accurate? And how did we get there? I want you to get to the point of maturity and confidence in Christ. And that's something I've been doing for years, continuing to learn, continuing to grow. And I want you to be equipped with the right tools to get there. So there's so many voices clamoring, so many religions saying that they're right. And even within Christendom, you got Catholics, you got Protestants, and then you got all these other world religions, and everybody's saying they're right. And the big question is, how do you know that? Why do you believe that you're right, and how did you get there? And so I'm going to show you some how and some why, and I want you to get to the point, because if there is such thing as objective truth, and there is, right? Well, then we can have absolute confidence in that. And so I'm going to, that's what we're going to be talking about in this video, to equip you with some strong tools and bring some clarity. My word, do we need clarity today in our world, with all the transgender and the gay agenda and just so much subjective, people saying that their truth is their truth, but it's all based on relativism. And so we need some clarity, and so that's what I'm going to do for you in this video, is to bring some clarity and some confidence that Christianity is the most accurate description of the world as we see it and experience it every day. And so I think this is going to be really encouraging for you. I want you to write down some verses I'm going to give to you in just a second. And so my intention is to encourage you and equip you. So here's four things with 8 verses, 2 verses for each of these things to consider. So write this down, that we are renewing our mind. And that's Romans 12, 1 and 2, and 2 Corinthians 10, verse 4 and 5. And then we're asking God for wisdom. And that'll be Proverbs 1 and verse 2, and James 1 and verse 5. And then process. The third part is that we're in the process. We're gaining discernment as we follow. And that's Hebrews 5, 11 through 14. And Philemon 1 and verse 6. And then the last thing is we want to fulfill what God has called us to do. And don't forget, now God called you first and foremost to himself, and for Jesus to be the source of your life. All right. John 17:17, John 4 in verse 10, Jesus to the woman at the well being the source of our life. And then John 17:3, for the source of our life, that this is life, that they would know you. So so I just added that one in there. But this fourth thing is that you would fulfill God's calling on your life, and again, remember, the first place that God calls you is to an intimate relationship with himself. All right, and before you ever get busy in the church, before you ever start getting busy doing stuff and leading Bible studies or anything like that, make sure that you have are moving in the direction of fulfilling God's purpose for your life and letting Him be your life. And so fulfilling God. So the fourth part of my outline here I wanted to give you is fulfilling God's purpose in your life and that you didn't want to receive. Listen, I'm an old guy now, and I think about this all the time. I don't want to have received God's love and his the gospel and the grace of God in vain. I want to respond appropriately to the love and the grace that God has given me and the gospel. And so those two verses for that is Acts 20:22 through 24, and then 1 Corinthians 15:10. Sorry about that. All right. And so with those four things in mind, and then I guess you could say the fifth one would be that a couple things I said a moment ago about Christ being your life, because that's super important. You don't want your life to be you don't want to depend on someone else to give you life. You don't want to depend on something else, like a mission trip or a ministry of some kind. Christ is supposed to be your life. And so, sorry about that. All right, so here we go with this idea of discernment and finding truth. So as far as discernment goes, Hebrews 5:11 through 14, and then finding objective truth, John 14:6. Jesus said, "I'm the way and the truth and the life." When Jesus said, "I am the way," that's a personal pronoun. It's Him, He. Right? It's not being baptized. It's not our rituals. It's not our routines. It's not our habits. It's not our denominational affiliation, but He. I talk with some people and about truth and life, and they're always pointing to something other than Jesus. They're pointing to their baptism, or they're pointing to their church. They say the church says this, and they're pointing to their good behavior. But Jesus didn't say good behavior and your denominational affiliation and the church and your baptism is life. He said, "I am the way and the truth, and I am life." And so, man, what a great distinction to make, and a careful thing to pay attention to. Okay, and so so the object lesson for this is this compass that I have, and you can go to my the playlist that has object lessons you can use, and this one's on there, and you can watch the it's about a 9-minute video about this with the object lesson, and of course this is illustrating truth, and so what you do is you ask, what's the compass for? Well, it's to point to true north, and then you can go through the learning lesson of having everybody close their eyes, and then everybody point to what they believe north is, and then they all point in different directions, and some of them get it right, but then you point out that make the point. Everybody's got their opinion, and everybody's saying what truth is, and everybody's saying, well, I got my truth and you got your truth, but your opinion doesn't matter. Your feelings don't matter. What does matter is what is objectively true. And so this is a great object lesson, and then again, the Christian worldview we believe is the most accurate representation of the world as we see it. And so you can go to that and use that object lesson as to help with your Bible study and that kind of thing. So so here we go. All right, here we go with my reason for this video. Not every religion is true. All right, not every religion is true. So we're learning to think Romans 12:1 and 2 as we consider the world religions and the claims of Christianity and your own growth as a Christian. Not just what do I believe, but why do I believe what I believe? You're going to be asking yourself. I mean, I asked myself this shortly after I was saved, all the way up until today. Right? Why do I believe what I believe, and how do I get there? How do I get to confidence, and how do I get to trust in God? And so most people believe that what they believe that just because that's what they're told. They're just told what to believe, and that's how I started out. I understand that, and their religion of their culture. So there's a lot going on. Is there a lot going on in Europe? Got 2 wars going on in Europe and Middle East, and so sometimes you believe what you believe just because you have because of your culture. Your culture tells you, where you're from. You're from the Middle East, so you're this kind of religion. You're from Asia or South or Central America, and so that you're predominantly there's a predominant religious view from each of these areas, Africa or North America, and so you believe like the predominant religion from wherever it is that you're from. So then the next question is, well, is it true? Why do I believe that? Do I just believe that because my mom and daddy told me? Do I just believe that because my culture tells me? Or do I believe that because it's objectively true? And so listen, in your conversations with your friends and people, you're going to find that objective truth is not a part of their frame of reference. It wasn't for mine for many years. And so when you're talking to your friends about why you believe what you believe, if you bring up the idea of objective truth, they are most likely not going to have a frame of reference for objective truth, even if they're older and highly educated. Highly educated doesn't necessarily mean that they have a reference or have bought into the idea of letting objective truth shape what they believe. That's what we do. Christians, we're not afraid of truth. We're not scared of truth. All right, we're not scared of truth. We're not afraid of truth. We embrace truth because we believe that God created the universe and everything in it. And objective truth helps us discover what he has made and created. And so when you talk to your friends and you're in discussions, whether it's a small group, sorry about my throat, whether it's a small group or you're just discipling somebody or you yourself are learning and growing, I say this because I know it's true about me. I have my personal preferences, right? And to deny myself is not one of my personal preferences. See, that's just human nature, to want to gratify my ego or my flesh. That's human nature. And it's most likely true for you too. And it's so subtle and deceiving. So when you're talking with your friends or in a small group discussion, the idea of a personal preference is going to weigh heavy, more heavy, and have stronger influence than letting objective truth shape what we believe. We're going to default to personal preference. I have, you have, because you're human, and the person that you're discipling or witnessing to or having a discussion about what's true and which religion is I say right, but that's not the best word to use. I mean, the best way to approach it is which worldview, and we'll put religion in there, but there's a lot of subcategories, but which worldview best represents the world as we see it and experience it every day. Now, I know that in South Asia and here in the States too, when you use the word experience, that automatically translates to truth, right? I've got my truth and you've got yours, right? But we have to be more, we have to think more clearly than that. We have to think more deeply than just that I experienced something and now it's automatically true. If you've experienced trauma, well, then it obviously happened to you, that bad thing. But don't get those two categories confused or blend them together. So that when a person says, I've got my truth and you've got yours, that doesn't mean that everything they experienced is true, or everything they've experienced or you've experienced is good. It doesn't mean that everything that you or they have experienced is objectively true. There's a lot of subjective experiences out there. So understand that when you're in a conversation with your friends or with yourself, right, about your growth as a Christian, and you're asking yourself, is this thing that I'm discussing, is it actually true? That objective truth is not going to be a part of most people's, 99.9% of people's frame of reference. They're not going to use that to help them decide and decipher and have discernment about what is objectively true. And then their personal preference is going to most likely weigh more. They're going to put more value or credence on their personal preference, or even their cultural preference. So they don't think that of religion as something that is actually true. Religion is subjective, and objective truth is not part of their thinking. Objective truth is not how they analyze or process. Objective truth is analyzing. Objective truth is asking questions. And I've already told you that my testimony was I was told what to believe. I was told what is true, and so I believed it, and I started sharing. And then people started saying, "Hey, actually, my mom was the main one who started saying, hey, there's people out there who believe different than you." And so I started asking questions, trying to be objective and trying to be reasonable. And in a sense, I'm still doing that. But I've come to the conclusion that we can have absolute confidence in the Christian worldview, and that it is the most objective, most accurate description of the world as we experience it and see it today. Winston Churchill said that some people stumble over the truth and they pick themselves up and they brush themselves off as though nothing ever happened. And I'm like, well, I've done that, right? And that's what your friends are going to do also. You're going to speak truth into the conversation that you're having, and they're going to pick themselves up and brush themselves off as though nothing, as though you didn't, as though you didn't say anything really important when actually you have. And so, listen, I just want to encourage you that this learning and this growing takes a lifetime. Because here I am, old guy, been following Jesus since 1977, and I'm still learning and still growing. And so, learning and seeing with spiritual eyes takes a lifetime, and you never stop learning and seeing as you continue to follow. So I hope you're encouraged with that. And so I believe I'm going to make this the end. It's kind of an intro, but I'm going to make that's the end of part 1, and we're going to go on to part 2.